Peace, peace.
Hey.
What's up, you guys? It's Ariam
And Yodit.
And you're tuned in to Dissoul Radio.
That's right. Your favorite twins are back talking all things music and culture.
Because 2 takes are better than 1, but twin takes are even better. And we're back with another episode. And we're super, super excited because we have a very special guest. We have costume designer and stylist. Please welcome Nadia Tulin.
Woo!
Yay!
So happy to be here with you guys. This is fun.
Nadia, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We are so happy to have you. We've been trying to track you down for a while, so super happy that you were able to pencil us in.
Feelings are mutual. I'm happy to be a part of your journey. I've been following you guys for a while, so this is really cool.
I know. We've been friends in the internet space,
Right.
But we officially saw you in person a few weeks ago, and I was so shocked. I was like, this girl in person, like she's
In
real
real
life.
life.
I know, right? I know it's like online, it's like a totally different world there, so
We love it. I love those moments when it's like so unexpected and you're like, finally it happened.
Yes.
But yeah, no, we're super excited. And for those who aren't watching but are listening, we just have to state right now that your look today, Nadia, is fire, head to toe.
Yeah.
Thank
you fit
you.
the title. Period.
yeah, it's just, casual, just like running out the house. Like,
Girl,
Yes.
that's
The day-to-day look.
I literally had to think about what was I going to wear today because we have someone that's so into fashion. I was like, I have to get my look right.
I think it's a scarf, actually. Just like a little accessory will go a long way. Trust me.
Yes, amazing. And we're going to talk a little bit more about your style and the work that you do. But before we get into that, let's start from the very beginning. For the listeners out there, who was Nadia as a child? If you can look back and reflect for a second.
Oh, gosh. Yes. I think about that a lot, too. I mean, I was always artistic. My dad put me in art classes growing up. My mother was an artist. My grandmother was an artist. I just loved art. That's just how my brain works. And I know that because when I was a little girl, like maybe elementary school, 8, 10 years old, my dad enrolled me in one of these like classes or programs where they have like a doctor or a specialist that kind of like checks you out, makes sure that you're, learning on track and like, like just to be sure. And they did a series of tests and they basically told my dad that she's like exceptionally well creative, not so well in like maybe like analytical things, of course.
Interesting.
And he said that she would make a great architect.
Oh, wow.
That's a very specific.
It's so specific. It's specific because
At
it's
that
like,
young of an age?
well, he's like, that's just like a career path that she potentially could
Thrive
follow
in.
because of the way she learns.
Interesting.
So it's funny because it's like back then it's like, okay, well, maybe they didn't realize how many creative careers there are out there. It's not like he was going to say she'd be a great costume designer or something.
That's
like,
true. It's very specific.
They had no idea. And it's just like styling and costume design, it is like architecture. You're using like visual and shapes and it's almost like math. And I was always really good at math. Like I was always the top of my class with math because for me it was visual. I could see the numbers and I could process it in my head easily. Like it just makes sense to me. Everything else I'm not so sure about, but but yeah, like art, math, I really love that. And I always did love fashion because of my mom and my grandmother. My grandmother was a fashionista even until she was like 90 years old. She wore all her rings all the time. She always had both her hands were full of rings, turquoise rings I loved. And she always had red lipstick on, even at like 95. Before she passed, she was always wearing her red
Yes,
lipstick.
we love it.
She was always
love a
great.
red lip.
So it's in your DNA.
I think so, I guess. Yeah, it has to be. It came natural, so.
Wow, that's so amazing to hear. And it's so interesting because I feel like that really speaks to how style is innate. It's not necessarily taught
Yeah.
or bought.
Yeah.
And just to hear that it ran through your blood essentially from generation to generation is really powerful.
Yeah, no, I believe that. I think it's a natural thing that you have or you're born with. I don't think you can really teach somebody that. I mean, you can be the smartest person in the world and just not have a clue of how to put an outfit together or why colors go together. It's just like it's just a thing. I mean, I love that, you know, there's so many programs to teach you how to do it or to, you know, advance in that craft that you already naturally have. I do love that, but yeah, I think it's something that you kind of just are born with.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they call it like fashion sense. It's like a sense that you have, right? You know?
That's true.
So I feel like, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, you just have to have a sense for it.
yeah, I agree.
So it's clear that it was innate and it was in your blood. But how did you discover your own sense of style?
That's a good question because I think about that a lot. What is my style? I don't even know if I have like I can pinpoint my style and what it is. I just like doing things that are different, and I just kind of like mixing patterns and colors together. And I just, for me, even dressing myself, like I get dressed in the morning and I always like put something on or take something off, and I just know, I look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, this works. When I was in high school, I really liked things that nobody had. Like it was like, if they don't have it, I want it. Like no, like seeing like what everybody else was wearing, I was always wearing something different.
It's easy to fall into trends just because they're popular.
Right.
But I understand that feeling of just wanting to stand out a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I did want to stand out.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about style and fashion in any capacity. It's a form of expression.
Right.
You know, if you want to communicate something, or if you want to command a room, or if you just want to, you know, elevate your vibrations. Like if you're having a bad day, but you want to put a look together to make you feel good.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different reasons and motivations for putting a look together. So it's always interesting to hear what inspires people, even on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So before we get into the work that you've been up to lately, let's talk about how you got into the industry, because it's super vast. It's super competitive, right? How did you get your start?
In the TV industry or just fashion?
Fashion in general, and even costume.
As a career.
As a career. Like what made you realize this is a legitimate path for you and you just wanted to get your start?
You know, it's so crazy because I didn't know when I was growing up. Like we didn't have like internet when I was in high school, basically. That kind of came later, like Google and everything.
Yep.
And so unless you were born or you grew up in New York or LA, you really didn't have that like natural knowledge, like the way like New Yorkers might have, because everything was here.
Right.
So I didn't really know like about costume design necessarily. Like I knew I loved fashion and I naturally just wanted to be a stylist. I mean, I had friends that wanted to be hairstylists and makeup artists, and my thing was fashion. I mean, even as a kid, I was like, my friends would call me like the fashion police, like in elementary school. I guess I was.
And the
just, like,
fashion police was huge.
like, here's Nadia, the fashion
I know
police.
Gen Z may not know, but if you turned on E, you would find out what to wear and what not to wear.
I was very like upfront with my friends. I was just like, no, that's not working. And so
I can imagine little Nadia.
I know, it was so funny. But yeah, so then I loved styling naturally. I started doing my own photo shoots with friends. Like I was just like setting them up. I was like, hey, do you want to do a shoot? I was borrowing clothes from other friends, from like vintage shops. I loved vintage shopping. Oh my gosh, like just like digging for gold, literally.
Yeah.
And my friend was a makeup artist. I had photographer friends. And then at a certain point, I was like, well, I can just shoot my own stuff. So then I got a camera, and then I took photography classes, and then I made a portfolio. And then I knew at a certain point I had to, if I wanted to do fashion, I had to be in New York, obviously, because you know, there's not a lot of opportunities like that in other states. So and I started researching, you know, stylists, and then it was so funny because Patricia Field was like one of the first people I discovered by researching. What is a stylist? What is a stylist? A costume designer for Sex and the City, like one of the most iconic shows known for their fashion.
Exactly.
And then my mom knew Patricia Field because she had a store in the 80s. And my mom grew up in Manhattan, and she was like, it was the best store. It was like the most iconic store. That's where everybody went to shop and get unique things. And so I had the knowledge of that, and then learning more about her. I think that was just naturally became a career path I wanted to follow.
And how crazy is it that someone that you were researching and looking up to is someone you had the chance to work with?
I know, it's kind of crazy.
It's really
like,
incredible.
especially now with everything going on. It's like just a full circle moment. Like I think about that a lot, and it's crazy. But I mean, what was probably like the biggest entry to my career path was when I started working in her store, which also was a happenstance as well. I can't explain it. I met a friend, and then a friend introduced me to another friend, and then she hired me to work at the store.
Wow.
And that experience really like crafted a lot of my skills and like where I am today because of everything I learned from her and the store. It was a store, but it was kind of like a school. Like a fashion school. Like I know she says it's she likes to look at things from working for her like a graduate program. So but everybody that has worked for her will say the same thing. It was literally a school.
Wow.
So yeah, that opened up a lot of opportunities, and then eventually I ended up kind of like segueing out of the store, and then I was doing my own thing, and then I definitely wanted to do film. So I started out as a production assistant, and then I ended up on a film with Patricia Field. It was ironic, obviously, because I had already worked in her store, and then now I'm trying to work in the film industry, and now I'm on a movie with her. So
Just this reoccurring figure in your life.
well, you know, the thing about her is that she's not always like giving people jobs. Like she pulled people from her store onto movies like Sex and the City, but it's not like she's just like doing that for everybody.
Right,
You have to
right,
earn your
earn it.
place.
Exactly. You have to be talented.
Yeah, you earn your place, and let me see how you work, and if I like it, then you can keep working with me, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really owe a lot to her in the film world because she helped me get into the union, and she trained me so much, and then hired me as her assistant costume designer, which has like always been my dream job. So
That is so amazing.
that's like the summed up version, I guess.
So we have an older sister. Her name is Sophie. And growing up, she was our fashion police. Okay, like
We all need one.
We all need one in
because
the
she
fam.
was always like, "No, this doesn't work. Try this."
Yes.
And she would always give Yodit and I these ideas of how to style ourselves or try new things. And sometimes I would be hesitant, but I would just listen to her because she's always been right in my eyes. And for a stylist, someone in your position, how do you gain the trust of your client to try and experiment with different styles?
That's a good question because a lot of clients, I've had clients that are not very open-minded, and they're
Right.
very like strict to what they think is best and what they think they look good in. And, you know, you lose the creative process. But ultimately, for me, when I dress people or style people, I want it to feel like it is them. I don't want them to lose themselves. You can always tell when somebody is styled or like their clothes are kind of wearing them, you know, instead of them wearing the clothes.
Yeah.
And that's important because I think everybody has like a little bit of style in them naturally. So it's like if we can pull that out of you and it can just be an elevated version of that, that's an accomplishment for me. It should feel like you, just you on the next level.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, it's still you, but we're here now.
Right, right. I like that because at the end of the day, it has to be collaborative.
Yep.
And you want your client to be comfortable and confident in what they're wearing. So it's kind of like this balancing act, right? Like you want to kind of push them, but also like respect where they're coming from too and what their comfort levels look like.
No, that's exactly what it is. It's a collaborative process. It should feel collaborative. And I think when you feel like you're collaborating with your stylist, then you feel more comfortable with them, and then the trust starts to build from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you see like the La Roches of the world and like seeing that like marriage with someone like Zendaya, right? Like she clearly has sense of style, but having someone that you can just collaborate with and have these like big moments, I think it has to be a mutual like
Absolutely.
understanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. So let's talk about some of your TV work. You have the opportunity to work with Project Runway. I
Iconic.
love that show. I think it's such a great concept, you know, working with designers and creating these ideas from scratch and then seeing these designs come to life is super exciting.
Right.
But I wanted to know, what was your experience like? Because you're coming from a costume design perspective. How did you collaborate with these designers?
That was an interesting job because, you know, it's a competition show about making clothes. So the designers are creating the clothes. They're designing their own clothes.
Right.
What my job was to supply the accessories for the like iconic accessory wall.
Got it.
So every time they have a look or a dress that they made, they get earrings, and we provide the earrings and the shoes and the hats and the purses and the gloves and like the stockings, and like we had it all. Honestly, it was like being a kid in a candy store because it was
I can't even
so
imagine what
fun.
that looked
Yes.
like.
No, I worked with an amazing costume designer named Kitty Boots. She is so talented, and I love her vision and her style choices as well. And we worked well together, and we shared that same vision as well. So basically the way it would work is there was challenges. They always had a challenge. So the designer would create the clothes based on the challenge for that episode or that week. And it was kind of fun for us because we kind of had the same challenge. So if there was a theme, like for example, just like 80s theme or something, those were the accessories we had to provide. It had to match whatever their potential garment would be. So we were kind of like, you know, just trying to provide a context of like, what would this person design? Like, where are they going to go with this? Like, where can you go with this? And then the accessories could actually make or break an outfit. Right. So it was almost up to them. It's like, hey, I mean, it's your choice to choose which accessory you want to use. They're provided, but you know, it was still up to them. But that was
So
actually a fun
interesting.
one. Yeah.
That's actually really interesting because you're like accessories, like you said, they make or break our look, but then you're providing these accessories for looks that don't yet exist.
As you know, when you watch the show, the challenges are so specific. Like you have to
Yeah.
like really find these things that would match that challenge. So it was like researching and online and shopping. It was just like nonstop shopping 24/7. So yeah,
That's so
I do
cool.
like to shop, so that was okay.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest part was that people don't realize is that because there's so many models, and you need, for example, shoes need to have like a whole range of sizing for each individual model, because we don't know which model is going to choose which shoe. So if we had a shoe on the accessory wall, we needed to have
Almost
5
every
pairs of
size.
sizes of that particular shoe, because then they were going to come to us and say, hey, I need this shoe, but my model's a size 8 or my model is a size 11, because you know models all like have like 11 size 11, some 12.
Yeah.
So then we had to find that shoe that, but they don't make that shoe in an 11 or a 12. So yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes challenges that we face too.
These are things you don't even think about.
We're
Like,
just the
as a
viewer.
As a viewer, like
we have
we're
our
not-
popcorn and we're just enjoying the show.
Right,
And
yeah.
you guys are all over the place.
So you guys probably have like bags and bags and bags of clothes.
Oh my gosh, yes, we had a whole warehouse of just like, it was just clothes and shoes and fun stuff too, like glitters and
Yeah.
you know, like we had, I don't want to give away too much, but I mean, like a past challenge was like, I think there was like a fur, right? There was like a fur, make something out of like fur fabric. So then we had to find like furry shoes and fun tip, Katy Perry makes really fun shoes. Just
Yeah.
Really?
If you guys didn't know that,
I didn't know
she has
that.
a really fun shoe line, and it is actually like pretty awesome. And then she has like all of those like kind of like quirky stuff that you
I can definitely see
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Very
that's cool.
Katie. Very
exactly
Katie.
watermelon shoes.
Yeah.
Literally.
So when you costume design, does your job spill a little bit over into like makeup as well? Like, does the makeup have to kind of coordinate the costume work?
I think it's also a collaborative process with the makeup and hairstylist. I do think that in the television union, we try to stay in our lane, our
Gotcha.
place. We don't want to disrespect the head makeup artist of their craft or the head hairstylist. But I think like on the show Run the World that I worked on, that was really fun because we collaborated so well together. It would always start with the look. What is she wearing? Okay, let me send you the fitting picture. Okay, now they have a place and where to go based on what you're wearing. I mean, the colors and like where is she going? So it's like, yeah, it's a collaborative.
That's
when you
cool,
ask
though.
when you ask that question, do you mean like we not physically doing any makeup?
No,
Yes.
not physically doing it, but like having an idea of what a makeup artist is going to do, and like maybe in a way coordinating the look a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, like I said, we like to respect the artist, and that's
Absolutely,
their
yeah.
world. But sometimes, like, we'd say something like, "Oh, well, I have this really strong look for her, and it will only pass if she like has like her hair like straight and long or something like
Yeah.
that." Or like, "Oh, it has to be an updo for this specific look
Right.
because that's what the story we're trying to tell."
Right.
The sophistication or office, or it's all telling a story.
And we're always inspired by the work that you all do in such a short amount of time. I mean, I would not survive.
Oh my
like,
gosh,
I couldn't.
Sometimes it was only 2 days turnaround.
Yeah, because competition shows are just a
Yes.
different medium within television.
Yeah, reality TV,
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah, they should have a reality show of the behind the
The
scenes.
beats.
Right. They should do a documentary.
The BTS
Follow
would
the
be-
different popular shows. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Well, you've done a lot of work for costume design for scripted content like Run the World. You've worked on Joker. You worked on Otherhood. How do you approach crafting a look or an aesthetic for a specific character?
It's a fun process because you read the script and then you develop the looks based on how you think that person's personality would be.
Right.
I think for me, it's like not just having an eye for like one particular type of style. I mean, there's so many levels of style. Like you can tell a lot by somebody's personality by what they're wearing. So we dive deep into their personality that the writers have developed, and then we picture what how that person would dress. So that process is actually like really fun. Character building, color schemes. Also, where are they going? What are they doing? I think that's the funnest part about working in scripted TV is like you have a story to tell because it's like, okay, they're going to the bathroom, they need a robe. Okay, they're going to an event, they need a dress. They're going to work out, they need, it's all laid out there like a map for you. So you just kind of just run with it.
To your point, right? Like these are things that the audience doesn't even factor in when they're watching
Right.
because they're so lost in the story. But I always feel like what's so interesting is that, like you mentioned, clothing helps tell the story and amplify the story.
Right.
But I didn't even think about scene for scene, frame for frame, like what
Right.
they would have to be wearing or having on them based off of where the story is in that moment. So that's really interesting, like just hearing you talk about that process.
Yeah, everyone's dressed, even the people in the background that you see walking across the screens. They were
Wow.
styled out. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. That seems like a lot. But I think
that'd
it's
be a lot. Yeah.
it's so essential because I think it further informs the audience who this character is. I mean, we talked a little bit about Sex and the City, but that's a great example about how these 4 women who have 4 different lives, 4 different personalities, but their outfits are an extension of who they are. Miranda's not going to wear what Carrie wears. She's definitely not going to wear what Samantha wears. But it's and of course Charlotte. She's very conservative at times. And you need that, I guess, extension of who they are. And I think it's such a great way to do that is through what they wear.
Right, and I think the audience connects with the characters better. That's the best way for them to connect with them because who are they? Which Sex and the City character are you? Which Run the World character are you? Who do you feel like mirrors you?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
That's why we love the shows. I mean, it's literally from the clothes.
Yeah.
I always have a lot of respect for what you all do because the clothing is just another character essentially.
Yes.
And it's the work that you all do, the attention to detail, that dedication alone is just, I'm sure it's more nuanced and more meticulous than we as audience members could even imagine. And so I think it's really cool when you explain the process that's what we're seeing is just a result of your thinking, of your vision. So
What's
really,
that
really
feeling
fun.
like for you when you decide this is the outfit I think the character should wear and it comes to life.
You get stressed out in the moment, right? Like every job has its stress time. So
Right.
like, you're working hard. You're waking up at 4 a.m. for a 6 a.m. call time, and you're doing this. You're working until 2 a.m. and it's just like all this like stress. And then when you see it on the big screens, of course, it's like a really great feeling because it's like, okay, it was all worth it for that.
Yeah. You're like relieved a little bit. Yeah.
All those blood, sweat, tears. Yeah. It was worth it.
And then, of course, like as an audience member, some of these outfits become iconic. Fans of shows, get to replicate or want to replicate outfits. And I'm sure it's really rewarding. So we talked about Patricia Fields earlier, but recently she has a documentary. It's called Happy Clothes, a Patricia Field film. Yeah. And you just went and saw it.
Yes. I'm in it.
I mean, she's in it, of course. She's in it. And it's interesting because you have this long history with her, and now she's being celebrated for her journey. What was that feeling like for you?
Oh my gosh, it was so weird. I still can't believe it happened. Seeing myself on like a movie screen was just like the weirdest thing ever, because I'm behind the scenes. Like being in front of the camera is not something that I'm good at or I do. So it was a little like surreal. The craziest part about it was that we were working on a show. We were working on season 2 of Run the World, and they told us that, they were shooting a documentary on Patricia Field and they wanted to get her process of how she works on a TV show, which just so happened we were doing Run the World. So they asked me if I would be okay with being a part of the documentary. And I was like, of course, like that'd be an honor. I'm thinking I'm going to be in the background just like folding clothes. But no, they like mic'd me up. I had like the whole thing. And then we're working on the show. Like we're doing our job.
Right.
And then there's just cameras following us around everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked on Project Runway. I know how reality TV works. But also there's like, they're going to get everything. They get so many hours. Anything you say is on that camera.
Yeah.
And then... So I didn't even know how it was going to turn out.
Right.
It's in the hands of the editors.
What I love about documentaries is it feels so raw in a way, and you really get this like behind the scenes lens into your world.
You get to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, actually. Well, it was an honor to like be any part of the Patricia Field like documentary legacy. I mean, for her, it was amazing. Like she deserves all her flowers. I just, think the world of that. But to be a small part of it, that was a great experience. Yeah.
So for someone that hasn't seen it yet, what should we expect to see?
So I think that it's a great film because it does kind of break down the process of like how we develop a character and like how we put together the looks. There's a fitting scene of one of our lead actresses, Brescia Webb, that is...
Love her.
I love
Yeah,
Brescia. She's
hilarious.
hilarious.
So funny. I love her dearly. She's a friend of mine, and she's so funny. And then you'll laugh. There's so many laughing moments.
Right.
I really do, encourage people to watch it. I think you'll get a good sense of kind of who Patricia Field is. Even as a kid, I learned things about her that I didn't know either. And it was just like also the people around her that she's influenced, and she has like paved the way for, and like their stories, and like she really shed light on everybody around her and the people that are close to her, even like her close colleague Molly Rogers, who is now the costume designer of And Just Like That, the new reboot.
Wow.
And not everybody knows her story, and it really shed light on her story and her journey working with Patricia Field for all the years on the original Sex and the City. And now the world can get a glimpse of that. Yeah. It was a great documentary for her, and for the world to see like how she's built this legacy on who she is. Yeah.
That's powerful. I love that.
Sure.
And I'm sure there's such a curiosity of her mind and, just her work, with Sex and the City. I mean, it's such... people till this day, like I mentioned earlier, are replicating Carrie's iconic looks. It's still making an impact in 2023.
Well, that's what makes Patricia Field so special in how she designs clothes, or she designs the costumes, is she creates timeless looks. So it will never go out of style. That's why it always lives on and on and on. She said something like she likes clothes that don't die. because they just
love
keep
that.
living.
Yes.
Yes.
They're always in style.
Yes, that's so real. I love that.
So that's why that show, you can watch it
Over and
in
over.
5 years and 5 years ago, and it will still work.
Yes. Outside of TV and film,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you have done work for artists like Nadia Natasha, and you've done editorial work. You've helped style Vashti on a pregnancy shoot.
Oh, yeah.
So, what are some key differences in your approach when you're styling those types of talent versus when you're styling on a TV show or for a fictional character?
Right. I mean, when you have like a celebrity or an influencer or whoever you're dressing, they already have their own personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not developing their personality. So like back to what I was saying before, I like to dress people like an extended version of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So like Vashti, she's like a cool street style girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's a sneaker girl, So it's like, what would a sneaker girl do? How would she do her pregnancy shoot?
Right.
So it's like, she had a vision, and she sent it to me, and it was like, she wanted to be very much like Little Kim and something like really cool and edgy.
Mm-hmm.
So we replicated that, and then just different versions of that. Like, okay, I pulled a men's Gucci suit. She's got a big belly, so we had the men's pants. So it's just kind of like, putting that together, and she was really great to work with. Actually, she was very much like, whatever you want to do, whatever you think. Like, I was like, well, let's, we can collaborate, But
Yeah.
she's like, no, you're the stylist. I trust you, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
That's so amazing. Vashti telling you she trusts you. It's iconic. in
I mean,
itself.
she's been in the fashion space, and her style's always been such a big part of who she is. And
Yeah.
it's cool that, you have clients that can trust you, and it shows that you have an impact in what you do.
So instead of asking you what trends that you're into, I'd like to know if you could just go back in time and bring something back, what would it be and why?
It's hard to say because everything is always coming back full circle. Like it always ends up coming back around. And there's so many people with their own individual style that are wearing that now. So it's like, is it back? Is it a trend? Like it's so complicated because in the words of Patricia Field, you don't really want to follow trends, and you don't want to make something too trendy because then it won't live on forever. So, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not really quite sure because I just appreciate everybody that is true to their own personal style. And that's actually something I wish there was more of if I was to bring back anything, is like more individuality.
Right.
Instead of like, what is everybody else wearing? I need to wear that, or this is what people look like.
Right.
Somebody's still dresses like they're in the 1920s. That's their personal style. And
Right.
I mean, I know there's some things I would wish didn't come back. Like, oh my god, a trend that I don't like is like mom jeans. It's like, I don't know. Like, I'm just like, why does everybody love mom jeans?
They're coming back.
Yeah, they're really back. That was the most surprising.
It's interesting how cyclical fashion
Yes.
is. Like, you think you're done with something, and then it just comes right back.
I mean, I love the early 2000s. That is actually when I'm so happy that came back. Because that is like one of my favorite times.
So you have a couple more questions before we wrap. I wanted to ask you, for those who are just getting their start in the space, what's a piece of advice that you'd give them, knowing all that you know now?
I just think for anybody that's trying to get into this industry, whether you're young or old, it's just kind of taking the time and being patient. I think a lot of people nowadays, they're just very eager to just climb up the ladder so fast. I just think it's just important to just learn as much as you can, work for different people. I'm still assisting, and just interning or working for free. I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of free shoots I've done just to learn and work with these people. I just really would just advise any kids, because I mean, I have little sisters. One of them is 20 and the other one is 22. And it's just like, try to collaborate with people and just focus on your craft. Just keep making things and doing it and putting yourself out there and working with other people in your world. I know Issa Rae had like a really good quote when she was like, try to network like in instead of like worrying about networking up so much.
Yeah, like horizontally. Yeah, I
Yes.
remember
I
her
love
saying
that.
that.
That was such good advice.
Yeah, and these are the people that are going to grow with you. So yeah, I just keep working and learning as much as you can and just practicing and it's going to happen. I mean, if you stick to something and you keep doing it, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Y'all heard it here. Y'all heard it here.
So what is to come for Nadia?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you tell me. Look at the crystal ball. I mean,
You have the scarf. You got the scarf on today.
I just want to keep working, keep learning. I'd love to costume design my own show or, my own film, ultimate goal, win an Academy Award. I don't know, like for best costume design. I mean,
Yes, speak it up.
dream. And, it will take time. I mean, that could happen it happens for people in their 50s and 60s and 70s. Like there's no limit.
Look at Ruthie Carter. Yep.
Oh, yes, of course.
She's been in this
the
industry
game
for
decades.
many years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes time, and it should not feel rushed. It should feel like you've built this long career for yourself, and yes, you deserve your honor.
Love
But
it.
that would
Speak
be
it
true.
up.
I don't know.
Speak it up,
Nadia.
with hard work, and you manifest it.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you're definitely on the right track, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. I really appreciate
Nadia,
it.
thank you for joining us on Dissoul Radio. It was
such a great conversation.
It was so great to learn a little bit more about you and what you do. If you want folks to keep up with you and all the work that you will be doing, how can folks keep up with you?
My Instagram is my name, Nadia.Tulin. Website, same thing, NadiaTulin.com.
Hey,
Y'all
nice.
heard it here.
And guys, that wraps up today's episode. If you like what you saw, you can keep up with us on our socials at DEUXSOL. That's at Dissoul. You can also watch us on YouTube, and you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. If you can hear it, we'll be on it. Until next time, guys. Peace.